E-rank boy dismissed by all reveals demonic powers and shocks everyone. If you dig my recaps, don't forget to subscribe and smash that notification bell. The protagonist, Junwoo Sung, receives a call from his sister, Jaina. She complains that he's still sleeping even though it's already 2:13 p.m. and today is their meeting with the teacher. Consequently, Junwoo hurries out of bed and shows up at Jaina's school, and she can hardly believe that this is really her brother. In response, he asks if he looks odd. She replies that she wouldn't use that word, while Junwoo explains that he couldn't meet with the teacher wearing sweatpants. It's not just Jaina who notices a change in him. All the girls around can't take their eyes off him as he attracts admiring glances wherever he goes. Seeing her brother winning hearts at school, Jaina asks if he wants her to introduce him to someone, but Junwoo pinches her cheek and tells her to chill out. At the meeting with the teacher, she shares that Jaina is an excellent student with great grades. She sets an example for other students, and the teacher enjoys teaching her. Jaina has performed well in mock exams and has enough grades to enter any medical school. However, the teacher asks Junwoo not to pressure his sister more than necessary. Besides that, the teacher has another matter to discuss. She wants to know if Junwoo, as the older brother, would allow his sister to become a hunter if she were to awaken. Junwoo answers without ceremony that he would not, and the teacher had expected that response. He asks why, and she admits that it's a lot to ask, but there's something she'd like him to do. Then he unexpectedly visits Han Song-yi and shows her a photo of Jaina, asking if she knows this girl. Startled to discover that Junwoo is Jaina's brother, Song makes it clear that, although she doesn't know what the teacher said, she won't stop hunting to return to school. Junwoo reminds her that she's rank E and won't be able to make a living from it. Although she made some money in his team, it was an exceptional case. Song doesn't want a lecture and retorts, reminding him that he is also rank E. However, he explains that he didn't come to ask her to stop hunting, but to invite her somewhere else. Next, we go to Woo Jinchul, who is waiting at the airport for the arrival of Hwang Dong-soo, brother of Dong-suk. Jinchul welcomes the hunter back, but Dong-soo makes it clear that this dump isn't his home. Nonetheless, he's surprised that a manager from the Hunters Association came to greet him personally. The manager asks how long he'll stay, and he answers that he needn't worry as he doesn't like this country enough to stay long. Jinchul wants to know if the guy came all the way here just to meet those two, but Dong-soo doesn't want the manager questioning things he already knows the answer to. Besides, it's fine if the surveillance team pretends not to know what he intends to do with those two inside a dungeon. First with rank E, then with rank D. As he radiates his strength around his body, Dong-soo asks if Jinchul is dumb enough to try to stop him. Meanwhile, Choi Jong-in informs the president of the association, Go Gunny, that some monsters can now fly, albeit short distances for now. Either way, the future capabilities of these monsters are unknown. Go announces that he will arrange an investigation into the matter. When night falls, Junwoo goes to a portal and introduces himself to manager An and Hyun. Delighted by the young man's arrival, they hadn't expected Junwoo to get in touch again. Song-yi appears alongside him, and he apologizes for the inconvenience, but An makes it clear that a request from Hunter Sung is in order, while Hyun asks if the training is for this girl. Junwoo replies affirmatively, then An explains that they've come in a good time as this area has been designated as a high-frequency portal zone, and a rank C portal opened this morning. At that moment, a man approaches and asks if the guys will take long, reminding them that they aren't here for a stroll. Junwoo asks who he is, and An introduces him as Kim Chul, a rank A tank, and that he is included in this training excursion for younger hunters as the leader of the attack team. Annoyed, Kim Chul grumbles to himself that he will have to take care of a bunch of rank E hunters, while An mentions that the attack team will consist of 1 rank A, 5 rank B, and 2 rank C. With Junwoo and Han Song-yi's arrival, there are 10 hunters in total. Junwoo hopes the girl will back out upon seeing how brutal the raids can be, but they've made an excellent lineup for the group. If they succeed too easily, it will compromise his objective. Kun approaches and asks the protagonist to limit his participation to give space for the rookies to show their skills, and he assures that he will do so. Thus, the expedition begins and the participants enter the portal. However, as soon as he steps into the dungeon, Junwoo is struck by a strange feeling. Suddenly, the portal reacts unexpectedly, so he grabs Song-yi and tries to pull her out. As he struggles with only his head outside, he asks manager An to bring the main attack team as quickly as possible. Having said that, he is pulled back in. Without delay, Baek Yoon-ho receives a call and can't believe that a rank C portal has turned red. Nonetheless, he is heading there right now. Inside the portal, Junwoo opens his eyes and finds himself in the middle of a forest surrounded by snow. Everyone wonders where they have ended up, while Kim Chul explains that this is a red portal. Song-yi asks Junwoo what this means, and he explains that unlike common portals, when you pass through a red portal, you are taken to a dungeon isolated from the outside world. Until the boss is defeated or a dungeon break occurs, there's no way out and no one from outside can help. Moreover, the monsters are stronger in such situations. With that said, an ice arrow hits directly in the face of a hunter, who falls to the ground lifeless. Another arrow is shot towards Song-yi, but Jinwoo manages to catch it in the air and saves her life. Around them, ice elves were positioned in the trees. Jinwoo notes that the elves targeted the two weakest members of the group. When the elves leave, Song asks what those creatures were, and his friend explains that they are ice elves. However, due to their malevolent nature, the hunters refer to them by a name more fitting for demons, Ice Slayers. At that moment, Kim Chul captures everyone's attention and warns that they will face enemies ranked B or higher, and without any support. For this reason, the survival of each hunter present depends on following the highest-ranked comrade's orders. Having said that, Kim admits that even he cannot defeat these monsters alone, so he decides to form a second group to increase their chances of survival. However, instead of forming balanced teams, the A-rank hunter forms a clique, selecting the best members for himself and leaving those ranked C and below in the other team. According to him, for every day they spend inside the red portal, only an hour passes outside. Meaning, whether they are there to kill the boss or for a dungeon break, the survivors can only leave after many months, too long to be burdened with dead weight. Yet despite the fearful expressions of the weaker hunters, Kim Chul doesn't want them to feel this way. After all, if they just survive until the boss is defeated, everyone will safely return home. At the end of the speech, a girl volunteers to join the weaker group and the leader grants permission, though he thinks her foolish for pitying them. Approaching Jinwoo, the woman points out that Kim hadn't even noticed the arrows arriving, unlike Jinwoo, who certainly isn't rank E as he claims. Finally, Kim Chul announces that he will follow the cleared path, so Jinwoo-san decides to take the route into the forest. Along the way, Kim shows his teammates the claw marks of an ice bear on a tree, admitting they are practically sacrificing the E-rank group. A member highlights that they probably haven't even had training, and that it's terrible luck to come on a raid just to be killed. Hearing this, Kim remembers that the other team has a C-rank and Park Heejin, who is B-rank. Nonetheless, he just assumed that the E-rank guy was the leader. Amidst this, everyone hears the sound of a bear and prepares for battle. Soon after, the gigantic creature appears, leaving everyone stunned by its size, except for Kim Chul, who orders everyone to focus on surviving. In response, the bear attacks the team leader, who raises his shield and causes the animal's claws to break in half. With his axe, Kim does the same, but this time with the entire body of the wild ice beast. However, two more bears nearby attack the group. Meanwhile, in the other team, Heejin asks her colleagues to stop because the tree markings indicate this territory belongs to the ice bears, and they should return before the animals appear. However, Jinwoo explains that this is precisely why he chose this path. If the territory belongs to the bears, they only need to worry about these animals, which is better than facing intelligent enemies like the elves. Changing the subject, the team leader takes a coat out of his inventory for each member and stares into the forest. Anxious, Song-yi asks what he's seeing, to which he promises to keep her safe, as he was the one who brought her along, but asks the girl not to ask questions. He extends this request to the other two team members, asking them not to question or request anything from him. At that moment, an ice bear encounters the humans. For this reason, Jinwoo changes his title to Wolf Slayer. Meanwhile, outside the portal, Baek concludes that there's no way to open this thing and everything depends on Hunter Kim. On reports that Jinwoo-sung is accompanying the attack team, but when Bark asks about the level of this hunter, the manager lowers his head and reveals that he is rank E, but there is suspicion that this guy has gone through his second awakening. In the meantime, Dong-soo arrives and notes that if the big shots of the White Tiger Guild are there must be an A-rank portal at stake. Now, what he doesn't understand is why a rank E trash entered this portal, which belongs to the White Tiger. Regrettably, it seems that Jinwoo got involved in this mess just when Dong-soo was after him. At least according to Dong-soo himself, Jinwoo is likely to become monster fodder inside. Speaking of which, the protagonist has just eliminated the last bear among the several that attacked his group. With this, he levels up and celebrates the fact that this red portal gives much more XP than usual. Startled, Heejin asks who this guy is. At night, they eat the meat of the bears they killed. Amidst a conversation by the campfire, Song-yi finds it bizarre that Jinwoo goes to exercise even after fighting that way. Far away, Jinwoo goes to the bear's den and summons Commander Knight Igris, the Blood Red, along with his subordinate warriors. The bears leave the den to defend their home and engage in a bloody battle against the specters. Observing this army in action for the first time, Jinwoo notes that the artillery has high firepower and the infantry regenerates quickly, but consumes a lot of mana. At this point, the leader of the bears shows up and eliminates all the shadow soldiers that were summoned, reducing Jinwoo's mana points to 0. Consequently, he orders Igris to advance. As the blood red takes a few steps forward, the bear charges at the knight with all its weight. However, Agris dodges the blow and even tears off part of the enemy's shoulder, leaving it even more furious. Nevertheless, the Dark Spectre is extremely fast and strikes the bear several times, bringing it to its knees and all bloodied. Still, the beast tries to use one last move, forcing the knight to cut its head off and end the fight. Meanwhile, in the other team, an arrow hits another companion of Kim Chul. Even facing the Ice Elves and at a great disadvantage, he declares that he will join the elite of the White Tiger Guild. However, when he sees an elf up close ending the life of a companion, the man runs desperately into the forest. Returning to Jin Woo-sung, he commands the dead bears to awaken. Then shadows emerge from the corpses of the animals, ready to serve the man with all their ferocity. Outside the red portal, the onlookers discuss that 3 hours have passed, equivalent to 3 days on the inside. Bak summarily recalls that the environment inside a red portal is merciless. Then Dong-soo imagines that Jinwoo must be dead and walks toward his car to leave. However, halfway there, he remembers that this boy is not from the White Tiger Guild, and thus wants to know why he was on the attack team. Concerned about the situation, On explains that Jin Woo-sung is an acquaintance of his and wanted to observe a C-rank raid, so he ended up joining in. With that said, Dong-soo grabs the association manager by the throat and demands to know what treasure he's uncovered this time, since he always had a knack for sniffing out interesting news. However, Baek grabs Dong-soo's arm and tells him to release his colleague. After letting go of On, Dong-soo remarks that Baek only thinks he's a big fish because this country is a little pond. Upon hearing this, Baek awakens his power and triggers a vast and powerful wave of energy. On moves away as best he can, fearing that if no one intervenes, an S-rank fight will break out right there. Sure enough, Dong-soo reacts and the two clash, causing an explosion at the site. In the meantime, Kim Chul walks through the forest after escaping the elves, freezing cold and imagining that his group could have won if they had the proper equipment. Further ahead, he reaches the bear den and discovers that they are all dead, unable to believe that the E-rank team could have done this. Therefore, he deduces that it was the Ice Elves and starts running again. Back at the S-rank duel, Jinchul intervenes just in time and prevents the two rivals from colliding directly. Afterwards, he confesses that he does not understand Dong-soo's interest in Jinwoo, but he personally assessed the young man 2 months ago, and Hunter Sung remains E-rank without a doubt. Regarding Hwang Dong-suk, Dong-soo's brother, he was killed in combat against a magical monster, according to the surveillance team's conclusion. Dong-soo laughs and replies that this is the story the association tells the public, while the real culprit behind his brother's death is that playboy from Yujin Construction. If Dong-soo believes so, Jinchul asks why he's after Jin Woo-sung, and the businessman replies that it's just an excuse to kill the kid. However, Dong-soo receives a message on his cell phone and comments that Jinwoo is lucky today. Inside the red portal, Kim Chul encounters the E-rank group and is enraged by the fact that they are still alive and even have cold weather gear like coats, tents, and even food. Overcome with anger, he approaches the group and yells that his entire team was eliminated because they lacked equipment and supplies. In other words, these weaklings were hiding these crucial resources and led his companions to their deaths. First, Kim focuses his gaze on Heejin, who is the highest-ranking member of the team, and says he will count to 3 and wants to hear a confession. With that, he starts counting and draws his sword. At that moment, Jin Woo-sung appears and sends the A-rank tank flying away, mocking the fact that he is blaming others for the death of his companions. Then the E-rank hunter orders the Ice Elves to stop using stealth because their aura is too strong to go unnoticed. Consequently, the Ice Killers abandon their invisibility. Their leader is surprised that some human worms have fared well in this hostile forest. When Jinwoo responds, he realizes he can understand the language of the elves, but does not know why. Anyway, the leader was informed by a subordinate that one of the humans is strong, and this subordinate wishes to fight him. With that, Jinwoo swiftly incapacitates the challenging elf with a precise strike of his dagger, but when he attacks the leader, he is able to block in time, though the horse was not so lucky. The elf leader asks why Jinwoo is pretending to be a human. The man doesn't understand, so the creature explains that his race hears a voice that orders them to kill humans, but no one had heard about Jin Woo-sung. Regarding this, Jinwoo imagines that this case is similar to the system's instructions. Perhaps the voice does not direct the elves to him because he is the player. Finally, the enemy announces that he has no reason to fight and wishes to resolve the situation sensibly. If Jinwoo hands over the humans behind him, he will be left in peace. Without responding directly, Jinwoo asks why the elves hunt humans, but as soon as the opponent starts to answer, a strange effect occurs as if time had turned back, and the elf leader makes the same proposal again about Jinwoo handing over his friends in exchange for his life. In the end, the man makes it clear that he does not accept the proposal. The elf remembers that they are outnumbered, but Jin Woo-sung highly doubts that. At that moment, the bears and shadow soldiers are summoned and placed in front of the elves, who do not flinch and advance against the foes. Soon, an intense fight begins while the three members of Jinwoo's group flee desperately. Seeing this, some elves aim their arrows at the fugitives, but Jinwoo slaughters all in time. Having done so, he understands why the leader of the elves is confident. After all, although the summons are immortal, Jinwoo needs to spend magical power to regenerate them, meaning that at some point this mana will run out. Besides that, the chief of the Ice Killers is visibly stronger than him. Speaking of this elf, he charges against Jinwoo Sung, who blocks the blow and reflects that even with Igris, this battle will not be easy. The elf introduces himself as Baruka and asks the name of his rival, who responds and summons his daggers. Without delay, the two clash again, and Baruka is so surprised by the opponent's skill that he admits it has been a long time since he had such an interesting fight. Suddenly, a giant fireball falls from the sky and hits the leader of the Ice Elves directly. It was the spectral mages subordinates of Igris, the Blood Red. Meanwhile, Kim Chul finally wakes up, remembering he was struck by Jinwoo, so he grabs his sword from the snow to rejoin the fight. Unaware of this, Jinwoo reflects on how the magical soldiers bought him some time. Regardless, Baruka emerges unscathed from a fireball and charges at Jinwoo, who just notices Kim arriving behind him. As Baruka closes in, his opponent has a vision of the future. In it, he summons a huge creature with an axe and shield to handle the elf. Back in the present, Igris is pitted against Kim Chul and mercilessly pierces his stomach with a fatal blow. With the man's death, Jinwoo commands him to rise and transforms the tank into his shadow ally. Meanwhile, as Baruka approaches the enemies, he is repelled by the shadow giant Jinwoo had envisioned. In fact, it was the spectral form of Kim Chul all along, whom Jinwoo names Iron. Despite the dark soldier's frightening appearance, Baruka shows no fear and vows to tear the specter to pieces first. Thus, Iron and Baruka begin their battle, and noticing that the Axe Warrior is slow, the elf plans to exploit this weakness. In the midst of this, Jinwoo's teammates are hidden in the forest. Songyi asks if hunter battles are always like this, and Heejin replies that if it were her, she wouldn't even be a hunter. Honestly, she has never seen anything like this. Bored with the opponent's slowness, Baruka challenges everyone at once, including Iron, Igris, and Jinwoo Sung himself. Not to be rude, the trio charges at the adversary, who manages to handle them without any damage. Motivated to kill Iron first, the Ice Elf strikes his shield hard and dodges a blow from Sigrid at the last moment. However, this move was the setup for Jinwoo to pierce Baruka's shoulder with his dagger. Despite the damage inflicted, Jinwoo is impressed by how the rival escaped the fatal blow amidst everything. After narrowly escaping death with cunning, Baruka declares that Jinwoo is underestimating him. In turn, the man admits that the enemy is strong, but he can't say the same for his soldiers. With that, Baruka surveys the battlefield and sees that his subordinates have all been killed. Regardless, he doubts Jinwoo's pawns are worth anything without him and resumes attacking the human. Jinwoo reacts by throwing his dagger at the elf, who dodges and thinks the man irresponsible for doing so. However, the player makes the dagger return towards the target at full speed, forcing Baruka to block the weapon in the nick of time. Moreover, this move costs him his blade, which breaks on impact. Then, Jinwoo orders Iron to attack, and the giant grasps the elf tightly. With that, the spectral mages cast fire at the target and cause a massive explosion. Yet despite the coordinated and successful attack, Baruka emerges from the ashes and vows to kill everyone. But he did not count on Jinwoo's sudden appearance, who stabs his dagger into the elf's rib and declares the end of the fight. Still, Baruka refuses to yield and stands up, until Iron uses a giant hammer to crush the enemy and splatter his blood everywhere. With the victory, Jinwoo levels up and notices that Iron is still pummeling Baruka's corpse out of pure rage. Then he teaches the Spectre to control his impulses. Having done that, he returns to his teammates and announces that now they can leave. At that moment, the portal reopens and the group celebrates their survival and the chance to return home. Nevertheless, before returning, Jinwoo has something to do with Baruka. Outside the portal, Manager An believes that it has been a week inside and Bak can go home if he wants, as he will be waiting. However, the S-Rank decides to stay as long as there are guild members in danger, even if it means staying until dawn. With that, the portal returns to its natural color and out come the first hunters, Go and Park Heejin. Next, Jinwoo Sung and Han Songyi appear, and then the portal closes. Baek asks where Kim Chul is, and the survivors lower their heads, responding without words. As Jinwoo was leaving with Songyi, Baek wishes to ask some questions. Removing the man's hand from his shoulder, the young man advises that he's tired and suggests the S-Rank seek answers from someone in his guild. Annoyed by the man's behavior, Baek grabs his shoulder again, this time with his body partially transformed. He emphasizes that 6 members of his guild have disappeared, and it is up to him to find out why. In turn, with eyes radiating mana, Jinwoo responds that might be so, but it was he who saved the survivors, so some gratitude would be nice. Hearing this, the White Tiger Guild Master apologizes and admits the boy is right. After Jinwoo's departure, Baek asks Heejin what got into that guy as he doesn't seem very sociable. Heejin responds that he became moody after defeating the dungeon boss. On argues that Jinwoo must just be tired because he isn't a bad person. Finally, Baek asks On to recruit Hunter Sung to the White Tiger Guild at any cost. Sometime later, Jinwoo drops Song-yi off at her door. She thanks him for today and counts on her colleague when they do this again. After starting the car, Jinwoo notes that not even a full day has passed on Earth, while he displays Baruka's dagger, the only interesting item he got from the red portal. Definitely, the level of that ice elf was too high, so much so that Jinwoo couldn't capture his shadow even after 3 attempts, the most he could. Thus, already at home and looking at his face in the mirror, the protagonist ponders that it was a lot of effort for little return, although this was the 3rd time. At this, his sister shouts from outside and threatens to eat without him. The next day, Jinwoo meets Yoo Jinhoo, who was wearing ridiculously shiny armor, for them to go somewhere, and they must pick someone up along the way. Thus, they go to Song-yi, who gets very close to Jinwoo in the car and apologizes for making him pick her up. Seeing things heating up, Jinwoo warns the handsome man that Miss Han is underage. Jinwoo asks what that has to do with anything. Then Jinwoo changes the subject and starts the car. After their journey, the group arrives in a dungeon and is immediately caught in the midst of a conflict. Jinwoo, instead of joining in, is captivated by the ghostly figures fighting against the ogres. He asks Jinwoo what these creatures are, and the protagonist realizes he had mentioned them to his partner before. Without going into details, he simply replies that it's one of his abilities. Unsatisfied, Yu wants to know if he can conjure ghostly soldiers, but Jinwoo feels it's too complex to explain right now and changes the subject. After the victory, he snaps his fingers and orders his army to collect the precious stones, and now Jinwoo kneels down and asks to at least help with the gems. Instantly, a shadow soldier hands a bunch of gems to the hunter, who thanks him for the understanding and brings a smile to his friend's face. Meanwhile, on a shipwrecked boat, a warrior screams in despair while a man tells him not to yell and to stay calm, explaining that the others who are down have only fainted. However, as he doesn't speak English, he assumes the warrior has no idea what he's saying, so he points to himself and says a few things that go misunderstood. Returning to the duo of hunters, they head to a restaurant after the expedition to enjoy some meat and a drink, celebrating the completion of Jinwoo's 19th mission under contract with Yoo Jinhoo. According to the hare, it would have been impossible without his comrade. Jinwoo asks what the next step for his friend is, and he explains that he's going to take a written test at an association to obtain a guild master's license and use this license to negotiate with his father. Meanwhile, Jinwoo mentions he will be out of touch for a while, as he needs to go to a certain place. After this, Jinwoo turns his glass and preempts that he should be told to keep quiet if he's being annoying. He then reveals he has a brother 10 years his senior who doesn't like him. The two have never spent time together like true brothers. On the other hand, Jinwoo saved Jinhoo's life and accepted his request. In other words, the hare lowers his head and confesses he wishes his friend were his brother. When this is said, an awkward silence envelops the room, and Jinhoo keeps his head down until Jinwoo serves his comrade and replies that, in that case, they are brothers from now on. Hearing these words, Jinhoo holds back tears, turns another glass of drink, and almost imposingly offers more meat to his new brother. Jinwoo asks if he's drunk, but he insists he's sober. In the meantime, the man who assaulted others on the shipwrecked boat is found imprisoned and handcuffed. According to the authorities responsible for the arrest, this man identifies as a foreign hunter who was trapped in a portal 10 years ago and never managed to escape until he ended up in the United States. Since he does not speak English, the suspect's interrogation must be conducted with a translator present. At the moment, there isn't belief that this prisoner is a humanoid beast, so the authorities have requested assistance from an S-rank hunter from Washington, who is a compatriot of his. This hunter's name is Hwang Dong-soo, and the investigation will continue as soon as he returns to the United States. By the way, one of the officers asks the prisoner's name, and another, struggling to pronounce it, says his name is Sung Il-won. After returning home, ready to leave again, Sung Il-won tells his sister he will be away for a month with a friend, and she asks since when did he have a girlfriend and why he hasn't told even his little sister. In the next scene, the boy returns to a place he had been some time ago. Around level 20, he faced Cerberus in the Demon Castle and couldn't finish the job, but now he has tripled in level and feels he has a chance. So he opens the dungeon door with the appropriate key and storms in. As soon as he enters, he is tasked with collecting 10,000 demonic souls, which makes the young man sweat due to the absurd amount. But since he returned to the castle in search of the elixir of life, be it 10 or 100,000, Jinwoo will take down each one. Meanwhile, as he submits his resume to his father, Jinwoo asks that the guild be passed on to him. The old man recalls that Jinsung, his elder son, had another idea for this guild, but Jinwoo argues that this plan of putting someone from outside as master is too risky for the company. That said, his father mentions that it was Jinwoo Sung involved in the dungeon tragedy, where Huang Dong-suk's group was eliminated, and in the death of the prisoners from the supervision department. Still, this man remains free and unpunished for his actions. And it was this man who participated in literally all of Jinwoo's expeditions to the portals. At the recent incident of the Red Portal from the White Tiger Guild a few days ago, it was said that Sung Il-won Sung was responsible for safely evacuating the survivors. So Jinwoo's father imagines that his son managed to get the guild master license largely thanks to Jinwoo's help. Hence, he questions if the son feels he could lead a guild knowing this. Still, even after hearing everything his father said, the boy insists that he would like to have the Yujin Guild. Therefore, the powerful businessman gives his son a chance, but with a condition. According to what he has heard, the White Tiger is wanting to recruit Jinwoo Sung after the Red Portal incident, and Jinwoo must bring him to the Yujin Guild before that happens. Speaking of him, Jinwoo couldn't extract the souls of the dead demons because their mana is contaminated, which is a pity since he had stacked hundreds. However, the hunter receives written permission to enter the second floor, then a huge light, probably the teleportation point, emanates from a specific spot in the dungeon, which, as Jinwoo comments, is gigantic, almost like an entire city within a single building. Walking could tire the hunter, so he summons the leader of the ice bears to serve as his mount. As soon as he mounts the animal, a horde of demons appears ahead, but the bear charges through and paves the way to their destination. Because of this movement, Jinwoo names the bear Tank. In the meantime, we head to the Hunters Association, a massive structure equipped with gyms and swimming pools. Amidst a few girls swimming, Chahat emerges from the water, capturing the attention of others with her beauty. However, all she can think about is an incident that happened once. During a meeting with Master Choi Jongin, she wanted to make the information about the flying ants public, but Choi responded that he had received an order from the association, as they believed disclosing this fact would only cause panic among the population. Either way, there's no need to worry. The priority is to increase the association's power to make it the country's largest guild and take on the responsibilities that come with it. Turning back to Jinwoo after killing another demon, he reflects on his fear that this dungeon was rank S when he got the key to enter it, but the demons living there seem to be no more than rank B. However, they always come in large numbers, and the further the human goes, the stronger the monsters get. Still, if Jinwoo can take down the demons carrying the permissions, he will be able to keep moving up floor by floor. That said, if the structure of the demon castle is the same as the original tower, there are 100 floors, and the hunter can only imagine the level of demons he will encounter at the last one. Now, more importantly, Jinwoo seems not to have enough food for such a long expedition, besides the promise he made to Jinna. So just like the battle against the demons, Jinwoo also races against time, but ultimately, he reaches the 10,000 souls set by the mission. The young man does not know how high he can climb in this dungeon, but either way, he moves forward. In doing so, he encounters the Lord of the Lower Floors, a demon known as the Volcano of Greed, guarding the 50th floor. Meanwhile, manager An Sangmin visits Jinwoo's house along with Park Heejin to try to recruit him for White Tiger, but finds only his sister at home, who says her brother went on a trip. An notes that Jinwoo has not participated in any recent raids and that the last location tracked by the association was the center of the urban area. Heejin is amazed to see that her partner can find out such things, and he explains that this is his job. In any case, the boy's whereabouts are now unknown. Returning to him, Jinwoo Sung orders his army to leave the enemy leader to him, so the subordinates advance to fight the other opponents. The spectral mages shoot flames at the demons, while Igris, the Blood Red, charges through the enemy ranks, causing a real havoc. Thanks to the increase in his intelligence, Jinwoo was able to enhance both his magical power and the number of soldiers he can summon. Putting that aside, the hunter wonders how long the leader of the demons plans to stay seated. Since the enemy refuses to move, the human plans to take the initiative. However, before he could realize it, the Volcano of Greed surges at an unbelievable speed to attack Jinwoo. Jinwoo reacts quickly and delivers a punch that sends the demon flying, startling the young man himself, who wonders how much strength he put into his attributes to manage that. Faced with the damage incurred, the Volcano of Greed is filled with rage and activates its Cerberus ability. When the giant demon charges at Jinwoo, the man orders Iron to send his shield to him. With the shield raised, Jinwoo is able to block the giant's heavy mace, but the intense combo suffered starts to worry the human about the health of the shield. Defending patiently, the man waits for a single opening to counterattack, and at a certain movement of the demon, he manages to break free from the combo and leaps towards the enemy's neck. But the volcano immediately turns and strikes with its club. On reflex, Jinwoo activates the hand of the ruler and absorbs the impact to the point of not dying right there. After avoiding his end, Jinwoo wonders if this monster can read his thoughts, while imagining that the only place he could inflict damage would be on its head. Either way, first he needs to restrict these agile and indecipherable movements of the giant, so Jinwoo uses the rage of the volcano of greed to lure it to a building. As soon as it approaches, Jinwoo quickly climbs the structure, while the demon cannot stop and crashes into it. Having this advantage, the hunter finally hits the opponent with his dagger, winning the fight and being rewarded with a fragment of the Tree of Life. Meanwhile, Dong-soo arrives in the United States to interrogate Sung Il-won, but the first to ask is the interrogated. He wants to know how much humans know about the existence of portals and magical beasts, for all this is nothing compared to the worst catastrophic force that has finally awakened, and Sung Il-won's goal is to prevent a disaster from happening. Ignoring the one who believes to be just a magical beast, Dong-soo asks if the prisoner still remembers the name of his wife or any of his 2 children. Then the man replies that one of his children is named Jinwoo. That said, Dong-soo promises that the 2 will meet again in Hell. And speaking of Hell, Jinwoo Sung advances with his army through the upper floors and eliminates Metis, the sole guide. Returning to the interrogation, the surroundings have turned to ruins. According to officials involved in the case, this is what happens when 2 rank S hunters come into conflict. In fact, they were lucky not to have been injured because Hwang Dong-soo was defeated in the blink of an eye. At that moment, Jinwoo Sung's food finally runs out on the 75th floor. Despite lamenting, he recognizes that he got good items on the expedition. An earring won from the boss of the 50th floor and a necklace from defeating a skeleton. In addition, the Mirror of Greed will be quite useful for his spectral mages, and lastly, he gained a key that he is not quite sure what it opens. In any case, Jinwoo's priority is to gather the 3 fragments of the Tree of Life. The first he obtained by defeating the Volcano of Greed. The second is the water from the Echo Forest, won by killing Metis. Thus, the last piece remains for Jinwoo Sung to save his mother. Guys, the source will be in the description, and also my brother and I created a manhwa channel. The link will be there along with the source. Check out the channel, and if you like it, please subscribe. See you.